There. Welcome back, everyone. Melinda Falgoust is back on the program with us again today. She is such a dynamic, amazing reader. So much fun. She writes incredible stories, and I'm so excited to have her back again. Melinda, thanks for coming back and indulging me in story time.
Absolutely. There's
You're so
cookies
much
and milk. There's cookies and milk afterward.
perfect. That couldn't be any better right now.
Or should I say bookies and milk?
Yeah, that works too. I actually have a fudge mold where you make fudge at home.
Yeah.
And they look like open books laying on a table. Super
Nice.
fun. Yeah, super fun. So for those of you who have not met Melinda yet, let me give you a little introduction. Melinda started her journey with the release of the book she will read today, The Gubbins Club, which won awards at the New York Book Festival. Her first picture book, Lousy Liver, a book which has more frequent flyer miles than Santa Claus, came shortly thereafter. The whimsical tale has enjoyed a visit to the Oshima Picture Book Museum in Japan, where it was displayed in the museum's annual event honoring the genre. I can't even imagine what it's like to have your book in a museum in a foreign country. That's got to be a huge high.
It was actually even more of a high when I was told that over 30,000 children got to physically interact with the book, because the part of the concept of the handmade picture book competition is you create the story, but you also hand engineer a pop-up version of your story. And so I did a lot of research on how to create a pop-up book. And we had springs and gears and turning wheels and slide pictures.
Oh my gosh. How great to have so many children interact with your story that way.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Melinda also writes in most other genres, including tiny children board and picture books, books for middle grade, young adult, and adult readers in action and adventure, mystery and suspense, romance, and thrillers. So if you're missing something, just go to Melinda, find her on her website or on Amazon, and just download, order something, because you won't be disappointed at all. She is also a paralegal, a teacher for pre-K through second graders. She is a veteran of the United States Navy and as an electronics technician. And when she's not writing, you can find her drawing, painting, and generally exploring the world in her often silly ways. So we're oh my gosh, you're so much fun. I'm so glad you came back. You're so much fun. Today you're going to read The Gubbins Club, The Legend of Charlie's Gold. Can you tell us a little bit about this story, pretty please?
I can. So as we said, this book was a New York Book Festival Award winner, as well as being a 5-star Reader's Favorite Award winner.
Awesome.
And it is all about treasure hunting and pirates.
Well, who doesn't love that?
Well, there you go. Think a mad combination of Goonies meets Da Vinci Code with a little bit of Indiana Jones thrown in for good measure.
Wow. Okay, that's super, super fun. I think you said there's going to be a sequel coming out shortly.
Yes. So this is the first in what is slated to be a series of 13. That's right. You heard me, folks. 13 books altogether. The sequel has been a long time coming, but it is coming out later this year. We're hoping no later than November. And after that, however, the sequels will fall one per year until the entire series is done. And it's going to follow the same 5 young heroes throughout the entire series of the book. So if you find and love characters in a book and love to follow them in exciting title after title, The Gubbins Club is probably a fantastic series for you.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I have had this book on my TBR shelf over here since I met you. And my problem is that I want to sit down and read it in one complete sitting. So I'm going to take it with me on my writing hermitage this summer so that one day I can just sit in a hammock, tie Charlie to a tree, and Charlie's my dog, just tie him to a tree, let him chase chipmunks on a 15-foot leash, and I'm just going to sit in the hammock and I'm going to read your book straight through.
Sounds like a plan.
Because I don't want to be interrupted. That's my goal for this summer, to read this book. I'm so excited to have you read for us. I always love it when you come on the program and read out loud to me because I get to be 6 years old and just listen again. So thank you for coming back. And please, when you're ready, take the microphone and read aloud.
You got it. Let me go ahead and get our little thing set up here. Chapter 1, The Map. X marked the spot. Treasure maps just work that way. Well, at least in fiction, Bernie McManus thought. Buried gold and sparkling jewels were a little harder to come by in real life. More often than not, when you follow the dusty clues of history, the treasure turned out to be a moldy bit of leather from an old saddle, or sometimes it was just a hunk of twisted, corroded metal that no longer resembled the brooch of some far-gone ancestor. No, the thrill of the modern treasure hunt was the puzzle, the unraveling of ancient mysteries that no one else could figure. But this treasure hunt was different. Bernie had found the spot. Of that he was certain. He had carefully sifted through the tangled trail of hints and misdirections to finally discover the piece of weathered parchment, a forgotten pirate's map, where X did, in fact, mark the spot. Its faded scrawl promised it held the key to a golden secret, the resting place of nearly 5 million pounds in gold. He had feverishly followed the map's directions, ignoring its dark predictions for trespassing thieves. Bernie wasn't afraid of long-dead buccaneers. As an archaeologist who enjoyed relative fame, you might say he made a living from the dead. So why the sudden chill that rippled down his spine? He wasn't alone. He had first felt the odd prickling sensation of being followed earlier in the day. When he'd left his flat that morning, Bernie noticed a short, lumpy man leaning against a nearby lamppost, reading the paper. It only struck him because the paper was Chilean, not a normal rag of the realm. Then later that day, he'd noticed the same man dressed in workman's togs at the library where he'd followed the trail. The repeated appearance of the odd little man prompted Bernie to drop his special package in the post. It was also what left him feeling a bit skittish now. Tyrannical pirates like Black Bart and Captain Kidd may have dissolved to ash years ago, but modern men existed who were just as vicious and shared no loyalty to the treasure trove laws of Scotland. Bernie ducked down behind a sand dune as the searching Fidra light swept toward the beach. A light breeze rustled through the tall grasses on the Yellow Craig shore, whispering in the night. Treasure, treasure, treasure. Bernie squinted through the dark, certain he had caught a furtive movement at the edge of his vision. He waited for the pass of the lighthouse beam once again. Suddenly, a dark shape swooped toward him. Bernie fell over backward as a herring gull narrowly missed his head. He grinned crookedly as the bird wheeled off toward the tiny island. Probably a resident of the Seabird Centre tucking into a late-night snack. He looked out over the firth at the keyhole stone arch, the 2 dark humps of Fidra looking like some great sea beast slumbering in the shallows, a dragon guarding its hoard, and Bernie meant to be the one to claim it for the crown. He pulled his small skiff toward the lapping waves. As he reached the edge of the black water, he stepped into the tiny boat and reached for the oar. At that moment, the cold, pale light of Phaedra swept over the dunes once more. Bernard McManus, a rational man of science, suddenly found his boyhood fantasies of swashbuckling, bloodthirsty pirates flooding back as the light glinted coldly off a raised hook of metal. Chapter 2, The Monkey's Fist. The parcel arrived at post, nondescript in plain brown wrapping paper, addressed to Master Colin McManus, 42 Henderson Row, Edinburgh, EH3 5BL. First, the postmaster thought little of it. Hundreds of parcels like this passed through his office with regularity, and he dutifully shuttled them on to schools and the like, where eager students awaited the assorted sweets, the bits of licorice rope, and the buttery shortbread rounds. On this day, however, this one package caught the interest of the balding little postmaster. It was small and rectangular, like so many of the others, yet the hemp binding the package together was fashioned in a most peculiar knot. Being a man of letters with no nautical persuasion, the knot was truly foreign to him. He adjusted his wire-rimmed spectacles, eyeing the knot suspiciously. A bleary blue eye roved over the intricacies and weaves. It suddenly struck the postmaster that it looked much less like a knot and more like the paw of a small animal with long, slender fingers gripping a prize. The oddity of the knot roused the curiosity of the postmaster so that he broke protocol and gave the box a gentle shake. No ticking, no loose claptrap rattling around, just the odd twisting of rope binding. Another boring queer package. So without further thought to the matter, he stamped the package with its proper postmark and rattled it along the conveyor toward Old Reekie, Edinburgh Academy, and a small, wheezy, spectacled boy named Colin McManus. Chapter 3, Smout. When you were small, Smout reasoned, life came at you one of several ways. Quite often, people thought you were absolutely precious, and your face succumbed to much cheek pinching as your head cut jollied back and forth. If you were fortunate, people overlooked you entirely, and you remained free to go about your business, cheeks unaccosted. Of course, however, if your luck ran to the sour, as Smouts often did, you fell into the far less desirable third category, bully fodder. He wasn't even certain into whose locker he had been stuffed. Maddock Donaldson wasn't picky when it came to his bullying tactics. Smout's nose wrinkled at the distinct odor of dirty athletic socks, that odd corn crisp smell. He supposed it could be the locker of a member of one of the sporting teams. A cleat neatly jabbed into his bum. Yes, definitely an athlete. As he rubbed his backside, he squinted into the deserted corridor. The world narrowed to 3 thin slats molded into the locker door. He squirmed in the confining space, contorting like a circus acrobat, until the luminous glow on Uncle Bernie's Explorer watch turned his freckle-splattered face a seasick green. The pale light reflected eerily off the round-framed spectacles as Smout managed a grin at his most cherished possession. His uncle had bequeathed the watch to him last year after returning from a dig in the Amazon rainforest. Uncle Bernie firmly believed that the world existed to be explored, and a treasure certainly hid round every corner and under every rock. To solve the mystery, one simply had to interpret the clues. But a proper adventurer needs proper tools, Uncle Bernie bellowed as he slapped the oversized watch on Smout's bony wrist. The timepiece had spun wildly, steadfastly refusing to remain to rights. That is, until Smout had borrowed one of Uncle Bernie's archaeology tools to punch a last hole in the band. Now it sat properly as Smout peered at its face. The watch had originally been his father's. He had been a grand archaeologist like Uncle Bernie. Of course, such a grand man would have had a grand watch, and his was spectacular indeed. It had all sorts of gadgets and fancy whoozy-whatsits. It could take accurate depth readings to 30 feet, had an altimeter to gauge heights to 30,000 feet, and featured a barometer function that registered changes in the air pressure to help predict weather patterns. At the moment, however, it merely glowed a pedestrian 8:35. Smout sighed. Roll call. Or perhaps someone would miss him and come searching. He watched a lonely tuft of weeds skitter across the empty courtyard. That's likely, he scoffed. Maybe then I'll have the grandest adventure ever, discover the greatest treasure in the world, and they'll crown me King of Ruddy England. He exhaled heavily and collapsed against the cold, unyielding metal. In point of fact, most of Smout's adventures derived from incessant rounds of cribbage with Miss Dumbarton, Uncle Bernie's million-year-old housekeeper. Smout swore her wrinkles had wrinkles. At any rate, best of 3 always turned into best of 5, and so on and so forth. Cribbage wasn't her strong suit. Actually, neither was housekeeping. It wasn't unexpected to find a wedge of cheese left lingering long into the experimental science stage, or layers of dust so thick one had to employ excavation tools to locate the furniture beneath. So, while cribbage passed some of the time, Smout longed for excitement. But real adventures beyond the walls of their Heriot Row flat were not in the cards for Smout's frail lungs. The Edinburgh climb was not suited for someone prone to asthmatic attacks and bronchial ills. Indeed, Smout's constant battle with illness and superlative genius for running fevers had left him, well, a scrawny little whelp. Well, a bit bug-eyed and out of the running for running or any other type of strenuous physical exertion. He frequently went to school armed with a physician's note excusing him from sports, and he spent much of his time watching other children enjoy theirs. But there were always the stories. When Smout was quite small, Smout's mother read to him. She'd been an archaeologist too. It was a family affair. Victoria McManus, however, was small and frail, much like Smout himself. She did most of her work behind a desk. The brains behind the brawn, she'd often joke. But in between the leather-bound pages of tall tales and grand adventures by Crusoe, Poe, Melville, and Stevenson, he and his mother became great sailors and swashbuckling pirates, searching beyond the confines of Smout's small bedroom for mystery, treasure, and great white whales. His favourite, of course, Treasure Island. On one cold and rainy night, she tucked a squirming Colin into bed. "It simply wasn't fair," he cried. "Every kid knew parents waited until kids were asleep to do all the really fun stuff." His mother's laugh pealed like a clear bell. "Oh, you flop about like a young salmon on the shore. I think I'll call you Smout." The nickname stayed. But his mother did not. One night, while working at the National Museum of Scotland, his mother had vanished, becoming much like one of the mysteries she and Smout often read. The local constabulary had no leads save for a torn half of an American dollar bill and the Latin phrase E pluribus unum scrawled on notepaper and circled in bold red ink. It was in the midst of this memory that a peculiar noise filtered through the narrow locker slats. Thump, trap, Snout cocked his head. Something familiar about the sound niggled at his memory. Thump, drag, thump, drag. Sound came closer. His knee grazed his chin as he maneuvered a size 4 loafer into a stack of textbooks, leveraging for a better view. He had just pressed his nose against the locker grill when suddenly his world went black. I think that's a good place to stop.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so instead of sitting in the hammock on a sunny afternoon reading your book, I'm just going to send you an airline ticket and you can come to the cabin and read it out loud to me. How does that work?
Done.
This is so great. You sure you don't want to keep reading? I mean, we could do this all day. What a great story. Oh my gosh. Wow. Do you have a favorite character in this book that I should be looking out for?
Bogey.
Tell me more.
His name is Bogey.
Okay.
He has a particular talent. He is a world-class nose picker. And he's not just your average nose picker though. He's not prone to eating them or any, thing
That
disgusting, like that.
Yeah.
But he has a project that he is particularly proud of. And he is desperate to find his tribe, the people who will appreciate his individual genius. And he is just one of the many quirky, fun, disparate characters that come together in this book and just discover that sometimes it's when we celebrate each other's differences that things really start to click.
That's so cool. Okay. Yeah, that one is going right over there on my shelf to take in my duffel when I go away this next month. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for coming back and reading. I'm really looking forward to more books from you. I know you have many more on the list. We talked about them in the green room, and I'm very excited about that. And to anybody who hasn't heard Melinda read her adult fiction yet, not adult fiction, but fiction for grown-ups, go into the YouTube channel or the Spotify channel and find the work that she read over February's festival. Super, super fun. Go back and listen to that. You won't want her to stop reading either. I certainly didn't. Thanks for coming back, Melinda.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always, always a pleasure.
Well, I look forward to you coming back because, like I said, you have more books that you haven't read for me yet.
And I'll be waiting for the airline ticket.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm telling you, I'm just doing it. Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.